What is up, YouTube? It is Baseball Nerd back with another MLB video. Today's video is the second part to the best player on each team. I did the best hitter with a sleeper position player for that team. And I'm doing the same thing now, but I'm picking the best pitcher from each team, starter or reliever. And then I'm also throwing in a bonus, my sleeper candidate for each team. That's a pitcher. So a pitcher that maybe is not, looked at so highly right now or didn't perform well so far, but I think could have a breakout or a very good year in 2021 and be one of the best pitchers on their team. So it's not really a rankings, it's just me giving out the two names for each team. My best pitcher, my sleeper. I'll go through the teams starting in the AL East to the Central to the West and then moving to the NL doing the same thing. So as always, please like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and come back for more MLB or MLB The Show content. And let's get right into it. Starting off in the AL East with the New York Yankees, my best pitcher for the New York Yankees has to be Gerrit Cole. I know Chapman is one of the best closers in baseball, as well as them having, Klubat and Luis Severino and some other guys that could potentially be there. But Gerrit Cole's one of the best pitchers in baseball, probably the second or third best pitcher in baseball in my opinion, and so he has to be the best on the Yankees. But for their sleeper, I'm going with Jameson Taillon. We haven't even seen the best from him yet, in my opinion. He's pitched 4 seasons. He still doesn't even have 500 innings pitched at this point, but he has a 3.67 career ERA. This is going to be the best team he's ever played for. It's going to be the best support he's ever had offensively, and I think he could have a really great year for the New York Yankees. Moving on to the Toronto Blue Jays, I feel like at this point it goes without saying that Hyun-Jin Ryu is the best pitcher for that team. He's got a career ERA under 3, his FIP's around 3. He's had his best 3 seasons the last 3 years, and he had a great season during COVID, which a lot of people struggled with. So he's got to be their best pitcher, and Nate Pearson is my sleeper for them. I know he may not be technically like a sleeper breakout candidate, but he came up last year, very highly touted prospect as he throws super hard. Everybody knows that, the big righty. And he came in and didn't have a great 2020, but I think he's going to have a good 2021. A lot of veterans had bad 2020, so I'm not looking too hard into 2020 for Nate Pearson. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Rays, I have to go with Tyler Glasnow as their best pitcher. I know Nick Anderson had a very good year out of the bullpen, but I just feel like if you're looking at their team, the guy I'd want on my team would be Tyler Glasnow. He's young, he's got some nasty movement, throws hard, pitched very well in the postseason for the Rays, and they lost Morton and Snell, so he's got to be the number 1 on that team. And then my sleeper for them is Ryan Yarbrough. I know he's been around an average pitcher, but he's still decently, he's not too old yet. He's decently young. And I don't think we've seen the best of Ryan Yarbrough yet to this point. Moving on to the Baltimore Orioles, I got to go with John Means as their best pitcher currently. Once they lost Cobb and Bundy, I didn't really know who to pick, but I think he's their best pitcher as of right now. And then Felix Hernandez. King Felix is my sleeper for them. I feel like he could come out and have a great year for the Orioles. I know he signed a minor league deal. He's a little older, obviously, lost some of the velo, a little dip there, but he's still got some nasty movement, and experience helps a lot on the mound. We've seen that with guys like Zach Greinke, guys extending their careers even after they lost their velo. Finishing up the AL East with the Boston Red Sox, I got to go with Eduardo Rodriguez. I know if Chris Sale comes back healthy, he would be the best pitcher on their team, but I don't think, from what I've been reading, that he's going to even be back this year. If he does, it's going to be towards the end of the year anyway. So Eduardo Rodriguez, who seems to be recovering pretty well from last year's COVID scare and all his health problems, I think he's their best pitcher. And then Nick Pivetta coming over from the Phillies, I think he finally is poised to have a good year and hopefully show some of what people were expecting from him on the mound. Moving into the AL Central and starting off with the Chicago White Sox, I got to go with Lucas Giolito as my best pitcher for them. He threw a no-hitter last year. He's just their best pitcher in my opinion. He's their ace. But their sleeper for me has to be Garrett Crochet. I think he's just looking dirty. He throws hard. He came out, his first season. He only pitched 6 innings, which I get that. But he only gave up 3 hits, no walks, no runs. He has a 0 ERA. 6 innings. That's why he's my sleeper, is because he hasn't done it long enough, but I think he really has a lot to give out of that bullpen. And then moving on to the Twins in Minnesota, I got Kenta Maeda as their best pitcher as of right now. He had a great 2020. I think he's their best pitcher, but their sleeper might not be a sleeper because he is their closer for the last couple years. But Taylor Rogers, I think, is getting even better. He's nasty, and I think he'll have a better year in 2021. Moving on to the Indians, Shane Bieber. What else do I got to say? As of right now, he's the best pitcher on that team and probably the second or third best pitcher in baseball. But their sleeper is Tristan McKenzie. He's young. He came out. The Indians always have good pitching. They always develop good pitchers, as you can tell from them losing Clevenger, Bauer, Cookie, Kluber, and they still have one of the best pitching staffs. So you can lose all those guys and develop more, then they have one of the best pitching development in the league, and he's on their development. So I got to go Tristan McKenzie. The Kansas City Royals, I'm going with Brad Keller as their most established starting pitcher and pitcher overall right now. But Brady Singer showed a lot of promise last year. If you play MLB The Show, you've probably seen his future star card. Doesn't throw very hard, but just a very crafty arm. And I think he's going to take another step up next year with more experience in 2021. Going on to the Detroit Tigers, Spencer Turnbull, as of right now, is my best pitcher for them. It's between him and Matt Boyd for me. But my sleeper is my guy. I drafted him on my only Dynasty Fantasy League, and it's Casey Mize. We've heard it the last couple years, him and Mackenzie Gore as the top two pitching prospects in baseball. I'm waiting for him to come up and show it. He didn't have a great debut in 2020. I think he's going to really go off in 2021 and be one of the best pitchers in baseball in the next couple years. Finishing off the AL in the AL West, we'll start off with my Angels. I got to go with Dylan Bundy as our best pitcher. I think Ohtani definitely has way more potential than Bundy at this point. I think Bundy showed flashes of his best last year, and Ohtani, I feel like we still haven't even seen it yet. But my sleeper for the Angels is Griffin Canning. I know there's not a lot of talk about him, but I think he's a very good young player, and he looks to be getting better. His off-speed is nasty still, and I think he's just got to get more experience and get used to it. He's got a good offense to back him up. I think he could take a good step forward in 2021. Moving on to the Seattle Mariners, I'm going with Marco Gonzalez as their best pitcher as of right now. We saw it last year, he was their best pitcher, but my sleeper is Justice Sheffield. I was going to go with Dunn, but I wanted to go with Sheffield. I think he just has more potential to do it this year as compared to maybe the next couple years. I'd maybe take Dunn over Sheffield long term, but I think either way, you couldn't go wrong with either one of those guys as a sleeper candidate. The Oakland A's, Sean Manaea, I think, is their best pitcher as of right now, but Jesus Luzardo looks nasty. He came up last year, had some good innings for them, and I think him or AJ Puck could have been a good sleeper pick, but I just went with Luzardo because we've seen more of him in the show as compared to Puck. But moving on to the Texas Rangers, I got to go with Kyle Gibson. They had a couple decent pitchers last year, looking at Lance Lynn and Kluber until he came out and pitched an inning, but Kyle Gibson is now their best pitcher, sadly for Rangers fans. They did get a nice prospect, a young pitcher in Dane Dunning from the White Sox when they traded Lance Lynn over there this offseason, and I have him as my sleeper pick for the Rangers. I think he could come up and take a good step forward. A lot of these sleepers are younger pitchers that I think could definitely benefit off of the experience and not being during as much of a COVID season, 60 games at least, and a little less restrictions maybe will help out a lot of these guys. Lastly, the Houston Astros. Zach Greinke, until Justin Verlander is healthy, is the best pitcher on the Houston Astros, and their sleeper is Jose Urquidy. I think he will be their sleeper pick. I was going to go with Framber Valdez. I think he had a great 2020, but he's hurt now, so he will not be pitching, so that's why I went with Jose. Moving into the NL and on to the NL East, I got to start off with the New York Mets and the best pitcher in baseball, Jacob deGrom. It's like when I did Trout for the hitters. He's the best pitcher in baseball, so that's why he's the best pitcher on the Mets. Moving on to their sleeper, though, I'm going with Cookie Carrasco. Carlos Carrasco came back from cancer, kept doing his thing, being a far above average pitcher, and just consistency. I think he's a sleeper. A lot of people aren't mentioning him when they talk about that rotation. They talk about getting Syndergaard back, talk about Stroman and how he's looked. Cookie is just a chill, laid-back dude that just does it. He just does it every year, and I think he's a good sleeper pick for that rotation. Moving on to the Philadelphia Phillies, I got to go with Aaron Nola. I think most people would pick him as their best pitcher, but my sleeper is Spencer Howard. He's a starting pitcher, came up last year, did okay for them. But one of their higher up prospects, he's actually from a college that's about an hour and a half away from me, less than an hour and a half away from me, and I watched him pitch. So it's really cool to see him up in the show, and I just like him. That's part of why I pick him as a sleeper, but I also think he has the tools to do it. If you play MLB The Show, you've seen his future star card. He's a beast. Moving on to the Washington Nationals, Max Scherzer is their best pitcher so far. Strasburg just gets hurt too much, in my opinion, and Scherzer's obviously been better when he reaches his full potential compared to Strasburg's full potential, And then Patrick Corbin is my sleeper for them. I was going to go with Brad Hand, but I feel like people noticed the difference he makes on the team. When Patrick Corbin came in was the year that they go on to win the World Series, adding that third, starter to help Stras and Scherzer out. Other things fell into place too, obviously a lot more, but people forget how nice it is to have that, a lot of people have the two-headed monster at the top of their rotation, but not as many people have 3 or 4, and Patrick Corbin helps give a lot of good depth to that rotation. Moving on to the Miami Marlins, I got to go with Sixto Sanchez as their best pitcher. I was flip-flopping between him at sleeper because he's still young and stuff, but he's just got such nasty stuff, and he was so good last year. He's their best pitcher, in my opinion, going into 2021, and Sandy Alcantara is their sleeper. I know you could almost see this being flip-flopped, but I think Sandy, is a little sleeper compared to Sixto's makeup and stuff he has going on. So that's why he's a sleeper to me. The Atlanta Braves, Max Fried is their best pitcher in my opinion. I know you can go with Charlie Morton. I think age is slightly catching up to him. He might be better than Max Fried this year, but I think Max Fried would be the person I would want on my team out of that whole rotation. And Ian Anderson came up and had a great 2020. One of the few guys to come up and just ball out in the COVID season. I think he continues to build off of that and get even better. He pitched in some big leverage situations in the postseason too and did it all. So I feel like no stage is too big for him at this point. That's a great way to start your career. Moving on to the Cincinnati Reds, it was between Castillo and Gray for me, but I went with Luis Castillo. I think he's their best pitcher, even though he might have been slightly worse than Sonny Gray last year. And then their sleeper for me is Amir Garrett. I think he's going to be their closer this year. He looked nasty the last couple years. He seems like a cool guy. He seems like he's really hungry, and I think he could come out and, be one of their better pitchers, especially coming out of the bullpen. And then moving on to the Milwaukee Brewers, I got Josh Hader as their best pitcher. Almost went with Woodruff here, but I think it's cool, to get some relievers in there. And Josh Hader is one of the best in the game still. So I think, picking him as their best pitcher is not a bad pick. And then a sleeper for me is Freddie Peralta for that team. Moving on to the St. Louis Cardinals, I have Jack Flaherty as their best pitcher. I think this is kind of, non-negotiable. And then moving on to their sleeper is Carlos Martinez for me. I think he could have a very big year in 2021 and ball out for the St. Louis Cardinals. And then moving on to the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mitch Keller, I think at this point has to be their best pitcher, even though, Pirates are Pirates. So sleeper for me for them is Steven Brault. Don't know much about him, but looking up the stats, I feel like he's a guy that could have a decent year next year and actually be one of the bright spots on that team for the Pittsburgh Pirate fans. Moving on to the Chicago Cubs, I got Kyle Hendricks. I think everyone knows he's probably the best pitcher on that team. And then a sleeper for the Chicago Cubs for me is Zach Davies, coming over from the San Diego Padres. Spent majority of the beginning of his career with the Milwaukee Brewers. He's been, around an average pitcher. I think he's got a career 3.8 or 3.79 ERA. But he's been, a decent pitcher, had a good year last year during COVID season. He's definitely, I think he's around 28 years old, 29 years old maybe. So not too young, not too old though. And I think he could have a really good year for the Chicago Cubs. Moving on to the LA Dodgers. At this point, in my opinion, even with the Big Bauer signing and Clayton Kershaw being a Hall of Famer, I think Walker Buehler is currently the best pitcher on the Dodgers. They have so many pitchers. It's ridiculous. And they continue to bring up more young arms every day. But my sleeper for them is the guy who carried them throughout the postseason and just dealt in every situation he was put in, starting out of the bullpen, and that is Julio Urias. I think he will be a big sleeper candidate to come through and give just a ton of value to that team. The San Diego Padres, I got to go with Yu Darvish as their best pitcher. I think as of right now, he's just their best pitcher, plain and simple, in my opinion. And then Joe Musgrove, for me, is a sleeper for the San Diego Padres. I don't think people realize that trade happened, and it was big news for about a second. It was a little flash in a pan, but I think Joe Musgrove is, it's just the same thing as James Centurion or these other pitchers, Garrett Cole, people that have left the Pittsburgh Pirates or left just teams that never gave them much offensive support or defensive support. It's going to be nice to be with a good catcher, with a good offense, with a good defense, with everything. I mean, it's going to make a big difference in my opinion, and just the change of scenery playing in San Diego. I think he could have a great breakout year. The Colorado Rockies, I think German Marquez is their best pitcher as of right now. He's young, he's a stud, he's an ace. I wouldn't be surprised if him and Story aren't there much longer, but as of right now, he is their best pitcher. John Gray is a sleeper for me. I know he's not really technically a sleeper as he was their ace a couple years ago, and he's still not bad, but I think he could have a great year after he kind of lost his ace spot the last year, so maybe he comes out and tries to really take that back. The Arizona Diamondbacks, I got to go with Zach Gallen at this point. He was the best pitcher last year, and I think he will be the best pitcher at least to start 2021. But the man who may come back to reclaim his throne is Madison Bumgarner. Today he pitched against my Angels in spring training and had a lot of our higher prospects looking foolish. He doesn't throw very hard, but he's got his velo a little bit back up. He got some nasty off-speed pitches still, and he's just a veteran. He knows how to He knows how to set people up. He knows how to sit them down. I think he could be a sleeper because people after last year just saw the dip in velo and the dip in efficiency and just knew he wasn't the same Bumgarner as of old. But moving on to the San Francisco Giants, the last team on this list, Kevin Gausman is their best pitcher as of right now. But my sleeper for the San Francisco Giants is Alex Wood. I think him coming over definitely helps give a lot of depth and just a nice arm over there for the Giants, and he could surprise a lot of people over there in San Francisco. So that is my list. That is my best pitcher and a sleeper pitcher pick for each team in the league. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have a different sleeper in mind, let me know. If you don't like my best pitcher on some of these teams, there's definitely a lot that are debatable. I can hear and be open to any argument. So let me know down below what you guys think. As always, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and come back for more MLB or MLB The Show content. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.